Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. I am your Ice Dragon, Rayron VR. Today we got another manga spotlight video today. We've got Solo Leveling Volume 1. So take a look at the back here and see what we're getting ourselves into. Alright, known as the weakest hunter of all mankind, E-rank hunter Jinwoo Sung's contribution to raids amounts to trying not to get killed. Unfortunately, between his mother's hospital bills, his sister's tuition, and his own lack of job prospects, he has no choice but to continue to put his life on the line. So when an opportunity arises for a bigger payout, he takes it, only to come face to face with a being whose power outranks anything he's ever seen. With the party leader missing an arm and only a healer of quivering mess, can Jinwoo somehow find them a way out? All right, so go into our other stats here. This is a yen press. Come on, camera. You can adjust. You can do this. Come on, camera. There we go. So this is from the yen press. It is older teen for language and violence. MSRP of 20. I think I was able to get this for like 15. So this is a little bit more expensive manga. Now I will use the term manga kind of loosely here because when you read this particular book, it reads American style. So we're gonna go ahead and go back here. This particular manga, again, quote unquote, it's how it's categorized in Barnes and Noble. If you go online to Amazon, it is characterized by manga, but it is more of a printed webtoon. Is probably the best way I can describe it, and I'll show you guys that in a minute. So with that, guys, I will be talking about spoilers for Solo Leveling Volume 1. So if you don't want to get spoiled, feel free to watch this video at a later time. But with that, let's go ahead and dive right into it. As I said earlier, this manga reads from right to left, so it's kind of American style a little bit. And then when you dive into it, it actually caught my surprise because all of the pages are actually colored. And I think that's one of the main reasons why the MSRP is a little higher than your average manga volumes, because this is actually all color, which is definitely different. For a minute, I thought, I was reading a graphic novel. And so the way I kind of categorize it is that this was inspired based off a webtoon. And so kind of the only ones that I've really shown on the channel recently is Metal Sailor Moon, which was also kind of in the same category. But it's definitely interesting. I definitely love the illustrations. The colors are gorgeous. And it really feels like I'm actually reading animation. It's not moving or anything, but in my head, I can connect it all together because of our illustrations here and so forth. Also, not your typical manga with the panels. It is very graphic novel type of design. So again, if you're used to reading mangas all the way, this one is kind of different. So the reason why I picked up this one is because it's becoming one of the quickest growing mangas on the charts, and it's really popular recently. So I wanted to dive into it, see what it was all about. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So we have our main character, Jinwoo Sung, and as stated from the back, he's this type of what they call hunters who go out and deal with these particular dungeons and monsters and so forth. And it doesn't go too much into the backstory. I hope that's something that we see a little bit more in the future, because basically what happened was you had this awakening, and it's like another dimension that came in where you had these gates, and then these awakened beings come into play, and they're basically hunters with abilities. Now think of it like as D&D, World of Warcraft, SOTOR. You've got these parties that have special classes, and you'll rank up and so forth. And there's a whole bunch of ranks in here. I'm not going to go too much into the weeds with that. But our main character here is the lowest rank, and he struggles to get through monsters and so forth. One day he's able to join a particular group, and they go into this, dungeon that's supposed to be for their level, or so they think. Then they find this other gate, which is basically a secondary dungeon, so dungeon inception, dungeon within a dungeon. So they go through it, and then they realize that they are at the boss level. Now, being kind of over cocky, they go into it thinking that they can handle it, but then, to their shock, they get trapped within it. And then they start to realize that there's a little tablet that explains to them. I don't want to spoil this part of it. I'm going to try to be as vague as I can with this, but basically they find a tome with some writing on it. They read the writing, and then they have to figure out how to defeat the bosses. Now, some of the illustrations in here are really cool because it gave me an Indiana Jones type of vibe. Like, they got to figure out this mystery, and if they don't do so, people die. And that's exactly what happened here. It felt like I was reading through this, kind of a hot take, but kind of reading through it a little bit, it reminded me that I was watching like an Indiana Jones film, especially The Last Crusade. Like, in The Last Crusade, you had Indiana Jones going through and he had to solve like a whole bunch of riddles. This is exactly that. Well, I don't want excuse me, I don't want to say exactly. It's very similar. You have this one individual that was able to figure out, oh, there's clues in here that we have to abide by, otherwise people die. And so as the time progresses, the party not doing those challenges, or the puzzle, I should say correctly, has led to several party members being dead. And so by the end of it, our main character here, he may not be strong, but he's able to understand puzzles and riddles. And that's where he truly shined within the party. He basically had the brains a little bit. So by the end of it, however, our main hero here doesn't necessarily gets killed, but gets stabbed. And so after that particular incident, he kind of wakes up in kind of a hospital type of thing. And then I kind of realized, like, oh no, are we going to have, resurrections and respawning ability happen here? But the first volume doesn't explain it. Other people have suggested that he had what's called a very rare second awakening, which is, again, a very rare feat, but there's no evidence to suggest that our main character here actually did that. But as a result of it, he actually kind of achieved the unlock of player, which was kind of confusing because you had a rank system, but then now he's a dedicated player, which means how does that work between the two? So I'm really confused on the kind of quest abilities that popped up, but it's weird. It's really weird. So anyways, so these new quests appear for our main protagonist, and he's starting to realize that he's got to do these daily quests, otherwise he's going to suffer a penalty, and the penalties are horrific. So it's like, you need to do these daily quests, and as a result, if you complete that, you get a special key, and these keys unlock to solo dungeons, which, I can probably meta say that's where our title of the manga comes into play, solo leveling. So with all these quests, he's probably had to do more solo dungeoning, which means he's going to start leveling up solo. So yeah, very interesting manga. Like I said, it's not your typical manga. It doesn't have the storyboards like you're used to seeing. It's definitely a webtoon inspired design. It reads from left to right. But I did enjoy it. I think if you guys like Indiana Jones and you want more of that storytelling, I think this is for you, because it is very linear too. That's definitely an interesting thing about this, is that it just gives it to you from start to finish, very linear. Character development is not really there. It's just, you're on this very linear quest, and again, it just feels like you're on a trip with Indiana Jones, but instead you're with our Jinwoo, and very brainy, knowledgeable, and just smart when it comes to like figuring out puzzles. But yeah, I really enjoyed it and can't wait for the volume 2. So with that, guys, that's pretty much the spotlight of Soul Leveling Volume 1. I enjoyed it. But with that, guys, if you have any manga suggestions, you guys know what to do. Go ahead and leave a comment down below, and I'll try to get that manga out as soon as I can. Like, comment, subscribe. If you appreciate what I do here, feel free to look at my links down below to how to support the Icey Fellowship. And with that, guys, thank you so much for watching this spotlight, and I'll see you on the next video.